Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something absolutely fascinating, the psychology and neurology behind why some of us experience the world on a much more intense emotional frequency. So if you've ever felt like your internal volume dial is cranked up just a few notches higher than everyone else around you, well, you are in the exact right place. We're going to unpack the actual science behind being a highly sensitive person.
Okay, I want to kick things off right away with this powerful thought. You aren't weak, your brain processes the world differently. I love this because it perfectly validates the lived reality of so many people who have been told their entire lives that they're simply being too sensitive. Society often treats deep feeling like a vulnerability, right? Like some sort of flaw that needs to be fixed. But what if we've been looking at it entirely backward? The research actually tells us that sensitivity is not a sign of weakness at all. It's literally a fundamental difference in how your brain processes the world.
So, here is our roadmap for today. We're going to define what an HSP is, take a look inside the HSP brain, talk about processing deep emotions, weigh empathy against emotional overload, figure out how to survive toxic environments, and finally, learn how to protect your energy. We're moving from scientific validation straight into personal empowerment.
Let's start with Section 1. What is an HSP? Defining the trait.
This definition completely reframes sensitivity. It takes it from being seen as a personality flaw and turns it into a measurable framework of emotional intelligence. I really want you to notice the language used here: neurological difference and deeper cognitive processing. Research actually shows that up to 20% of the population has this trait. So being a highly sensitive person, or HSP, isn't just about, crying during a sad movie. It's a highly recognized psychological profile. It basically means your nervous system is taking in way more data, physical, emotional, and social data, than the average person, and you're thinking about it much more deeply.
Moving right along to Section 2, inside the HSP brain, the biological reality. So what's actually going on in there? Well, it all comes down to invisible neurological differences. A neurotypical brain is incredibly efficient at filtering out the background noise of life. It easily ignores subtle shifts in lighting, slight changes in someone's tone of voice, or the ambient stress of a crowded room. But an HSP brain, it absorbs and continuously processes all of it. There's no automatic filter effortlessly blocking out that incoming environmental and social stimuli. Your brain is essentially running a far more complex program, catching every single tiny detail. Which brings us to Section 3, processing deep emotions, or what I like to call the intensity multiplier. When we compare the reaction to baseline stimuli, the difference in intensity is honestly pretty dramatic. An HSP's reaction to standard emotional triggers is significantly magnified compared to the average person. Think about a baseline stimulus. Maybe it's receiving some constructive criticism at work, or just feeling the energy of a really stressed out friend. For a neurotypical individual, that might register as a mild blip. But for an HSP, that exact same stimulus rockets way up the intensity chart. And here's the crucial part. It isn't an overreaction. Not at all. It's just a perfectly accurate reflection of how deeply that information is penetrating your cognitive processing center.
Now, processing things this deeply gives you incredible psychological advantages, for sure. But it's absolutely a double-edged sword in daily life. On one side of the blade, this deep processing grants you exceptional emotional intelligence, immense creativity, and just an incredible ability to read a room. You catch all those beautiful subtleties in art, in nature, and in human connection that other people completely miss. But on the other side of that very same blade, constantly taking in all that data can be absolutely exhausting. You face unique daily challenges simply because your hardware is working overtime all the time.
Let's dive into Section 4, empathy vs. emotional overload, and finding the tipping point.
We really need to map out the exact tipping point where connection turns into cognitive overload. Healthy empathy is a massive superpower. It allows for deep connections, a really intuitive understanding of what others need, and a capacity for compassionate support that honestly makes HSPs incredible friends and leaders. But there's a danger zone: emotional overload. Because you're constantly absorbing everyone else's stress right on top of your own sensory input, you can hit burnout fast. That deep empathy can quickly transform into physical and mental exhaustion. The whole trick is recognizing when you're drifting from healthy empathy straight into emotional overload.
All right, Section 5, surviving toxic environments, navigating the noise.
So how do we handle this? Well, there are a few sequential coping mechanisms you absolutely have to deploy to survive environments that overwhelm you. Step 1 is absolutely crucial. recognize the toxic stimuli early. Because your brain processes so deeply, a toxic environment, whether that's an argumentative workplace or just a chaotic family gathering, is going to drain you way faster than anyone else. You have to spot it happening in real time. Step 2. Emotionally detach. Now, this doesn't mean being cold or callous. It just means consciously deciding not to absorb the negative energy as your own. And step 3. Retreat. Find a safe sensory space to recalibrate. You have to give your nervous system the quiet it desperately needs to power down.
And that leads us perfectly into Section 6, protecting your energy, building your shield.
I want to be super clear here. Implementing these boundary setting techniques is not selfish. It is literal neurological maintenance. First up, limiting your exposure to overwhelming spaces is just smart resource management, plain and simple. Practicing saying no without guilt is also absolutely vital. Your energy is finite, and you get to choose exactly where it goes. Also, scheduling mandatory decompression time isn't some luxury. It's a hard requirement to keep your brain at a sensory burnout. And finally, curate a low-stimuli living environment. Your home should be your ultimate sanctuary, a place where the volume dial of the world is completely, 100% muted. So, to wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a final thought to help you stop fighting your sensitivity and start actually wielding it. We've seen the science, we've looked at the neurology, and we've mapped out exactly how your brain processes the world on a deeper, far more profound level. It's a double-edged sword, yes, but when you actively protect your energy and manage your environment, it becomes an undeniable advantage. So now that you know all this, how will you harness your neurological superpower today? Think on that for a bit. Until next time, keep exploring the incredible potential of your own mind.